My name is Elena Brooks. I was 28 years old the day my parents told me to leave forever. Not move out, not take some time, not figure things out. Leave. Forever. It happened on a Thursday evening, 6:17 p.m. I remember the exact time because I had just walked in from work, dropped my keys on the kitchen counter, and was about to ask what was for dinner. Normal day, normal moment. Until it wasn't. My mother was standing by the sink, her back to me. My father was at the table, staring at something on his phone, and my brother Daniel was sitting in my chair. That was the first thing that felt wrong. Not big, not dramatic, just wrong. "Hey," I said slowly. No one answered. That's when I felt it, that quiet tension in the air, the kind that tells you something has already happened and you're the last one to know. My mother turned around. Her face wasn't angry, it wasn't emotional, it was decided. "You need to pack your things," she said. I blinked. "Why?" My father finally looked up. "You're leaving." No explanation, no build-up, just a conclusion. I let out a small laugh because it didn't make sense. "You're joking, right?" No one laughed. Daniel leaned back in his chair like he was watching a show, like this wasn't about him, like he wasn't the reason for any of this. "Is this about him?" I asked, pointing slightly toward him. My mother's voice sharpened. "This is about what's best for the family." There it was, that word, family. Funny how that word only shows up when they need something from you. "What's best for the family is kicking me out?" I asked. "You're not being kicked out," she said quickly. "You're choosing to leave." I stared at her. "You literally just told me to pack my things." My father stepped in. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be." "Harder? You want me out of my own house and I'm the one making it hard?" "It's not your house," he said. That one hit. Because technically, he was right. The house was in his name, always had been, even though I paid rent, even though I covered bills, even though I lived there for years like it was my home. Suddenly, none of that mattered. Daniel stood up slowly. "Look, I just need a place for a while," he said. A while? I almost laughed again because Daniel's "a while" had a history, a long one. A while turned into months. Months turned into years, and somehow he always stayed, and someone else always had to adjust. This time, that someone was me. "He has kids," my mother added, and there it was, the justification. "He needs space," my father said. "And I don't?" I asked. Silence. The answer was obvious. "You're single," my mother said. Like that explained everything. Like that made me less important, less human. "You can figure it out." That sentence, that one sentence, that's the one that changed everything. Because it wasn't just about the house, it was about how they saw me. Temporary, replaceable, convenient. "When?" I asked quietly. My father didn't hesitate. "Tonight." I felt something drop in my chest. "Tonight?" I repeated. "Yes." No apology, no hesitation, just final. I looked at Daniel, really looked at him, waiting. For what? I don't even know. Maybe for him to say something, to step in, to show even a little discomfort? But he didn't. He just stood there, arms crossed, like he had already won. That's when something inside me went quiet. Not broken, not emotional, quiet, like a switch flipped. "Okay," I said. That surprised them, I could see it. They expected a fight, tears, begging, but I gave them none of that. I walked past them, down the hallway, into my room, closed the door, and stood there. Just stood there, looking at everything. My bed, my desk, my clothes, my life, and realizing something terrifying. I didn't belong there anymore. Not because I left, but because they had already decided I didn't. I grabbed a duffel bag. Not a suitcase, not boxes, just one bag. Because deep down, I knew they wouldn't let me take more. "Don't take too much," my mother called from outside. Right on cue. I packed slowly. A few clothes, my charger, my laptop, important documents. I left behind things I loved, things I paid for, things that mattered. Because suddenly, None of it was worth fighting for. Not there, not like this. When I walked back into the living room, everything felt different, like I was a guest. Daniel had already taken over half the space. His bag, his jacket, his presence. Fast, too fast, like this had been planned. I stopped near the door, looked at them one last time. "Is there anything else?" I asked. My mother crossed her arms. "No." My father added, "This is for the best." For who? I didn't ask, because I already knew. I opened the door, stepped outside. The cold air hit my face, sharp, real. Behind me, the door closed, and then the lock clicked. I stood there for a second, bag in my hand. No plan, no destination. And then I heard it, my mother's voice, through the door. "Don't come back." 4 words, simple, final. And in that moment, I believed her. But what they didn't know, what none of them knew, was that 2 weeks earlier something had already started, something they ignored, something they dismissed, something that would come back, not as a conversation, but as a knock that would change everything. The first night was the hardest, not because I didn't have somewhere to go, but because I finally understood something I had been ignoring my entire life. I was never meant to stay. I sat in my car for almost 20 minutes after they locked the door behind me. Engine off, phone in my hand. No calls, no messages, nothing. It was like I had already been erased. I scrolled through my contacts, names I hadn't talked to in months, people who would ask questions, people I didn't have answers for. Then I stopped on one name, Maya. I hesitated, not because she wouldn't help, but because she would, and that meant I'd have to say it out loud. I got kicked out. I hit call anyway. She picked up on the second ring. "Elena? Everything okay?" "No," but I said, "Can I come over?" She didn't ask anything else. "Of course, I'm home." That's the thing about real friends. They don't interrogate you in your worst moment. They just open the door. 15 minutes later, I was sitting on her couch, bag on the floor, hands wrapped around a cup of tea I wasn't drinking. Maya sat across from me, waiting. I told her everything. Not dramatically, not emotionally, just facts. They told me to leave. Tonight. Her expression didn't change at first. Then slowly, her eyebrows pulled together. "They just kicked you out?"
Exhaling
Yeah.
sharply.
For
That's
Daniel?
messed up.
Yeah.
I nodded.
She leaned
because
back.
it was. But it also wasn't new. "This isn't the first time, is it?" she asked. "No," I said quietly. "It's just the first time they didn't pretend." Silence filled the room. Maya stood up suddenly. "Stay here as long as you need." I looked up. "You sure?" She gave me a look. "Elena, you don't even have to ask that." And just like that, I had somewhere to sleep, but not a home. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. Maya's apartment was small, but warm, safe. Still, my chest felt tight, not because I missed them, but because I realized something else. They didn't think I'd recover. They thought this would break me, that I'd come back, beg, apologize, accept whatever terms they gave me, because that's what I had always done. Adjusted, compromised, stayed quiet. But this time felt different, not louder, just clearer. The next morning, I woke up early, before Maya, before the sun fully came up. I sat at the small kitchen table with my laptop, opened my email, scrolled, and stopped. 2 weeks ago. Subject line, final notice, documentation required. I stared at it. That email, that was the thing they didn't know about, the thing they ignored, the thing that was about to change everything. 2 weeks earlier, I had applied for something I didn't even tell my parents about because I didn't think I'd get it, because I didn't think it mattered, because I had been trained not to expect anything for myself. But now it was all I had. I clicked it open. "Your application has been reviewed." My heart started beating faster. "Pending final verification." Pending, not rejected, not denied. Pending, which meant it was still alive. I leaned back in my chair, processing. If this worked, everything would change. And suddenly, getting kicked out didn't feel like an ending. It felt like timing, perfect timing. Maya walked into the kitchen half asleep. "You're up early." Yeah. She poured herself coffee, then looked at me. You okay? I nodded slowly. Maybe. That caught her attention. Maybe? I think something's about to happen. She raised an eyebrow. Good or bad? I looked back at the screen, at that email. Good, I said. For the first time in a long time, good. Later that day, I went back. Not inside, just outside. I parked across the street, watched. Daniel's car was there. Of course it was. Through the window, I could see movement, boxes, furniture shifting, fast, too fast, like they had been waiting for this. Like the moment I left, he moved in completely. No hesitation, no transition. That confirmed it. This wasn't sudden. This was planned. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. Not angry, not even surprised. Just done. That's when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I almost ignored it. Almost. But something told me to answer. Hello? A professional voice responded. Is this Elena Brooks? Yes. This is Karen Mitchell from Housing Development Services. My heart stopped. We reviewed your application. Silence, the kind that stretches, the kind that changes your life before you even hear the words. And we'd like you to come in tomorrow to finalize everything. Everything. Not discuss, not review. Finalize. I swallowed. Does that mean... Yes, she said. You've been approved. Approved. The word echoed in my head. Approved. After everything. After being told I didn't deserve space. After being told I could figure it out. I just had. Without them. Thank you, I said quietly. We'll see you at 10 a.m. The call ended. I sat in my car, hands still, breathing slow. And then I laughed. Not loud, not dramatic, just disbelief. Because the same people who told me I didn't need a home had no idea I was about to get one, a real one, mine. And they were about to find out, not from me, but from something they would never expect. Something official, something documented, something that doesn't care about family opinions, something that shows up without warning and knocks. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was stressed, but because my mind wouldn't slow down. Approved. That word kept replaying in my head like a loop. For the first time in my life, something had gone right for me, not for my family, not for Daniel, not because I adjusted, for me. At 9:32 a.m., I was already sitting in the parking lot of Housing Development Services, 10 minutes early, hands on the steering wheel, breathing slow. I looked down at my reflection in the mirror. I didn't look like someone who got kicked out, and that mattered because I refused to walk into that office looking like I had lost something. I hadn't lost anything. I had been removed. There's a difference. At exactly 9:58, I stepped out of the car, walked in, signed my name at the front desk. Elena Brooks? I turned. A woman in her early 40s stood near the hallway. Professional, calm, measured. Karen Mitchell, she said, extending her hand. I shook it, firm. Come with me. Her office was simple. Desk, 2 chairs, a stack of files neatly arranged. She sat down and opened one. My file. I watched her flip through pages, every document, every form, every piece of proof that I had built something on my own. You have a strong application. I didn't answer because I didn't trust compliments yet. Not from systems, not from people. You've been consistent, no late payments, stable income, clean history. I swallowed because everything she listed were things that I had done quietly, without recognition, without support, until now. She slid a document across the table. This is your approval confirmation. My name was printed at the top, clear, permanent. I stared at it for a second longer than necessary. Then I signed. Pen to paper, just like that. It was done. You'll receive your housing assignment within 72 hours, Karen said. Assignment. That word felt strange, like something temporary, but I didn't care, because this time, temporary was mine. I stood up. Thank you. She nodded. You earned it. Earned. I walked out of that building feeling different, not lighter, not happier, stronger, because for the first time, I had something no one could take away, not my parents, not Daniel, no one. Or at least, that's what I thought. By the time I got back to Maya's apartment, I felt it, that quiet shift, like something in my life had just moved forward. What happened? Maya asked the second I walked in. I didn't say anything. I just held up the paper. Her eyes widened. No way! I nodded. She jumped up from the couch. You got it? I got it. She pulled me into a hug. Tight. Real. I knew it, she said. I smiled, because I didn't know it. Not until now. That evening, we ordered takeout, sat on the floor, ate like everything was normal, and for a few hours it almost was. But something still felt off. I couldn't explain it. Not fear, not doubt, just awareness. Like the story wasn't finished, like something was still coming. The next day passed quietly, no calls, no messages, nothing from my parents, which was strange, because usually silence from them meant one of two things. Either they were waiting or they were planning. On the third day, I got the call. This is Housing Development Services. I sat up straighter. We have your unit ready. My heart picked up again. Address will be sent to your email. Okay, there's just one thing we need to confirm when you arrive. I frowned slightly. What is it? Ownership clarification. My stomach dropped. Clarification? I repeated. Yes, it's a standard verification. Nothing to worry about. Nothing to worry about. That phrase again. The call ended. I sat there, still, because something about that didn't sit right. Ownership. Why would they need to clarify ownership? Everything was in my name. Everything was clean. Unless my mind went back. Back to the house, back to my parents, back to Daniel, back to something I hadn't considered, something small but dangerous. What if they didn't just kick me out? What if they did something else, something legal, something quiet, something behind the scenes? I grabbed my laptop, opened my email. The address was there. Unit 14B, Westfield Housing Complex, move-in approved. Everything looked normal, except one line. Final verification required upon arrival. I stared at it, and for the first time since getting approved, I felt it. Not fear, but suspicion, because I knew my family, and I knew one thing for sure. They don't let go that easily. I stood up, grabbed my keys. I need to check something, I told Maya. Everything okay? I don't know yet. I drove, not to the new place, not yet. I drove somewhere else, somewhere I hadn't been in years, the county records office. Because if something had been changed, if something had been filed, if something had been touched, it would be there, and I needed to know before I walked into anything blind. I parked, got out, walked inside. The building smelled like paper and dust, old records, old decisions. A clerk sat behind the desk. Can I help you? Yes, I said. I need to check property records. For what address? I hesitated, just for a second, then I said it. My parents' house. She typed, clicked, scrolled. Then she stopped. Her expression changed slightly. Not dramatic, just enough. Is everything okay? I asked. She looked at me, then back at the screen. There was a recent filing, she said. My chest tightened. What kind of filing? She hesitated, then turned the screen slightly toward me, and that's when I saw it. A document dated 3 days ago, the day after I was kicked out, and under Property Update, there was a name. Not mine, not my father's. Daniel Brooks. My heart stopped, because that meant one thing. They didn't just kick me out, they replaced me, legally. And suddenly, that verification at my new place didn't feel standard anymore. It felt connected, like something bigger was happening, something I wasn't supposed to notice, something that had already started moving before I even walked out that door. I didn't leave the records office right away. I couldn't. I just stood there, staring at the screen. Daniel Brooks, my brother's name, attached to that house, legally. How is that possible? I asked, my voice lower than I expected. The clerk adjusted her glasses. It looks like a partial ownership transfer. Transfer, that word hit harder than anything else. Not temporary, not emotional, permanent. Who authorized it? She scrolled. Property owner, your father. Of course he did. He didn't just kick me out, he made sure I couldn't come back, not even if I wanted to. And the date? I asked. She pointed. The same day they told me to leave, which meant it was already done, before the conversation even happened, before I walked through that door, before I had a chance to say anything. This wasn't a decision, this was an execution. Clean, planned, final. Can I get a copy of that? I asked. Of course. She printed it, stamped it, handed it to me. I took it, folded it carefully, because this wasn't just proof, this was leverage, and for the first time, I wasn't the one being pushed. I walked out of the building slowly, got into my car, closed the door, and just sat there. No tears, no anger, just clarity. Because now I understood everything. They didn't expect me to fight, they expected me to disappear, but they made one mistake. They thought I had nothing, they thought I had no backup, no plan, no power. They were wrong, and they were about to find out. That evening, I didn't go home. I didn't go back to Maya's right away. Instead, I drove back to that house, not to go inside, not to argue, just to see. The lights were on. Of course they were. Daniel's car was in the driveway. Of course it was. But something else was different. The porch light. It used to flicker. I never fixed it. Now it was steady, bright, like someone had already started changing things, like my presence had already been raced. I stepped out of the car, walked towards the sidewalk, didn't go further because I didn't need to.
I could already see it. Through the window. Boxes gone, furniture moved, a new layout, a new life. And I wasn't part of it. Looking for something? I turned. Daniel was standing in the doorway, smiling, not surprised, not uncomfortable. Comfortable, like he belonged there, like he always had. I just wanted to see how fast you moved in, I said calmly. He shrugged. Didn't take long. Of course it didn't, because it wasn't sudden, it was planned. You knew, didn't you? I asked. He tilted his head. Knew what? That they were transferring the house to you. He didn't even hesitate. Yeah. Just like that. No guilt, no hesitation, just truth. How long? I asked. A few weeks. A few weeks. That meant, while I was still living there, they were already replacing me. You could have told me, I said. He laughed. Actually laughed. And ruin it? That was it. That was the moment. Where everything clicked into place. Not just what they did, but who they were. You really think this ends well for you? I asked quietly. He crossed his arms. It already did. I nodded, because in his mind it had. He had the house, the space, the advantage. And I had nothing. Or at least, that's what he thought. Enjoy it, I said. And I turned around, didn't argue, didn't fight, because this wasn't the place, and this wasn't the moment. As I reached my car, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Again. I answered. Elena Brooks? Yes. This is Officer Reynolds with the county department. I froze. Officer? Yes, we need to speak with you regarding a recent property filing. My eyes moved slowly back to the house, to Daniel, standing in the doorway, watching me. What about it? I asked carefully. There's been a complaint filed. Complaint? Against who? Against me? For what? I asked. The officer's tone shifted slightly. Possible document discrepancy. My heart started beating faster. What kind of discrepancy? We'd prefer to discuss it in person. Of course. When? I asked. Tomorrow morning. I swallowed. Okay. The call ended. I stood there for a second, processing, because now this wasn't just family drama. This was legal, and somehow I was being pulled into it. From behind me, Daniel called out, "Everything okay?" That smile again, like he already knew something, like he was waiting, like he expected this. I looked at him, really looked at him, and for the first time I saw it. Not confidence, not control, something else. Nervousness. Small, hidden, but there.
And that told me everything. He didn't have full control. Not yet. And whatever this complaint was, it wasn't as clean as they thought. I got into my car, closed the door, and this time I smiled. Because now it wasn't just me reacting, it was them. And something had gone wrong. Something big enough for the police to get involved. And tomorrow, I was going to find out exactly what. I arrived 10 minutes early. Again. Same habit, same control. But this time, it wasn't about opportunity. It was about damage. The county building looked colder than it had the day before. Gray walls, fluorescent lights. Too quiet. I checked in at the front desk. "Have a seat," the receptionist said. So I did. Hands folded, back straight, eyes forward, waiting. "Alina Brooks?" I stood. A man in his 40s stood near the hallway, plain clothes, badge clipped to his belt. "Officer Reynolds." We shook hands, firm, professional. "Come with me." The room he took me into wasn't an office. It was an interview room. Table, 3 chairs, recorder in the middle. That told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't casual. "Before we begin," he said, sitting down, "I need to confirm everything you say here is voluntary." I nodded, because I had nothing to hide. He opened a file, looked at me. "Do you have any ownership claim to the property at 114 Maple Lane?" Straight to it. "No," I said calmly. His eyes didn't leave mine. "But you lived there?" "Yes." "For how long?" 5 years. "Paid rent?" "Yes." "Any formal agreement?" "No." He wrote something down, then flipped a page. "Did you sign any documents related to that property in the past month?" "No." "Did you authorize anyone to sign on your behalf?" "No." He leaned back slightly.
My stomach tightened, which means whoever filed it attempted to validate your consent. Consent, that word again. Funny how they only care about it when paperwork was involved. "Who filed it?" I asked. He closed the file. "Your father." I exhaled slowly, not surprised, but still, hearing it out loud made it real. "Will I be charged with anything?" I asked. Direct, clear, because I needed to know where I stood. "No," he said, just like that. Relief didn't hit immediately. It came in waves, because I knew what that meant. If I wasn't responsible, then someone else was. "We're opening an investigation," he continued. There it was, the shift, the knock that was coming, not for me, for them. "Will you cooperate if needed?" he asked. "Yes." No hesitation, because I wasn't protecting them anymore. Not after this. The meeting ended quickly after that. I walked out of the building, and for the first time since all of this started, I felt steady. Not hopeful, not emotional, just certain. Because now the truth wasn't just mine. It was documented, official, and unstoppable. 3 days later, it happened. The knock. But not on my door, on theirs. I didn't see it, but I heard about it, from Maya first. "Did you hear?" she asked, walking into the living room. "Hear what?" "Your parents' house. Police showed up this morning." I froze. "Why?" She sat down slowly. "They're investigating something, that's all I know." I didn't respond, because I already knew. Forgery, fraud, whatever they called it, it was real now, and it had consequences. That evening, my phone rang. Dad. I stared at it, long enough for it to almost go to voicemail. Then I answered. "Hello?" Silence. Then, breathing. Heavy, unsteady. "Alina?" His voice sounded different. Not strong, not controlled. Cracked. "They came here," he said. I didn't answer, because I wanted him to say it. All of it. "They're asking questions about paperwork, about signatures." There it was, the fear. Real, unfiltered. "You need to tell them it's okay," he said quickly. And just like that, the moment arrived. The one I didn't know I was waiting for. "You need to tell them you signed it."
I closed my eyes, because even now, even after everything, he still thought I would fix it, that I would step in, take the hit for the family. No, I said. Silence. Heavy. Elena, please. Please. That word. I had never heard it from him before. Not like this. You don't understand what this could turn into, he said. I do, I replied. And I did, better than he ever expected. You're my daughter, he said. And there it was, the last card, the one they always used, family. I took a breath, and for the first time in my life, I didn't bend. I was your daughter when you told me to leave, I said. Silence. I was your daughter when you locked the door. Nothing. I was your daughter when you forged my name. His breathing stopped, because now there was nowhere left to go. Please, he said again, and this time I believed him, not because he deserved it, but because he finally understood. This wasn't something he could control anymore. I'm not lying for you, I said. Calm. Final. The call ended. No goodbye, no anger, just reality. A week later, there was a knock on Maya's door. I opened it, and there they were, both of them, my parents, standing there, not proud, not confident, small. My mother looked like she hadn't slept. My father didn't meet my eyes. And for the first time in my life, they weren't in control. Elena, my mother said softly. I didn't move, didn't invite them in, didn't say anything. We need to talk, she added. I nodded once. But not here, I said. Because this wasn't about fixing things. This was about boundaries, real ones, and they were finally going to learn what that meant. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and stood there, facing them, not as their daughter who adjusts, not as the one who gets over it, but as someone they couldn't control anymore. They opened their mouths to speak, and for the first time, I didn't feel small. I didn't feel replaced. I didn't feel anything except certain, because now the truth wasn't just mine. It was documented, official, and unstoppable.